In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to press your apples into cider on a budget. We're going to start out with the materials needed for this project, and then I'm going to show you a few clips of the full press process. First, let's cover the materials required for this project. I'll also be sure to put a list in the show notes below. Starting at the top, you'll need 3 5-gallon buckets, one of which you'll have to drill holes around the bottom. I'll show you a close-up picture of that later. Next, in the top left, you'll also need a small bottle jack. This one I got on sale from Harbor Freight for around $14. Then you'll need a linen laundry bag. This one I believe I purchased from Walmart for a couple bucks. Then you'll see a lid you'll need for one of the 5-gallon buckets, and you'll need to drill a hole roughly 1 inch in diameter in the center of that lid. To the right of the lid, you'll see a scrap piece of wood. You'll need at least one of these, probably more, and they need to be able to fit within the circumference of the 5-gallon bucket. Then to the bottom left, you'll see a 2x4 frame. The interior of mine is 17 by 20 inches. It doesn't need to be exact, but the height just needs to be at least 4 or 5 inches taller than the bucket when it's placed inside. Then in the middle bottom, you'll see a painter's tray for a paint roller. You'll also need to drill holes in the well of this. I'll show a close-up image of that as well. Then in the bottom right, you'll see a paint stirrer and also a drill. This particular drill is, again, a cheap Harbor Freight version of a hammer drill, so that there's a bit of rotational and percussive action. I think you could probably get away with just a powerful drill, and it wouldn't need to be a hammer drill. Here's a side view of the bucket with the holes around the bottom. This was done with a 1/2-inch drill bit, and I drilled the holes roughly 1 inch apart from one another, and these are about 1/2 inch to 1 inch up from the bottom of the bucket. And I was careful to make sure that I did not drill through the floor of the bucket. These are only through the side walls. Here's a top view of the painter's roller tray. In the well portion, punch or drill 3 to 5 holes about 1/2 inch in diameter towards the edge of the tray. This is the grinding portion of the process. The setup here is a 5-gallon bucket with the apples in it, and then you put the paint stirrer through the hole in the bucket lid and then attach the paint stirrer to your drill. The lid then will close over top of the bucket with apples so that when you start grinding them, they don't spray everywhere. And you end up just putting in a lot of effort here, just going up and down with the drill and towards the sides and bottoms to try to maximize the grind. This is definitely the most time-consuming portion of the process. If you come up with an alternate method, this is where you're going to save the most amount of effort and time. But you're going to want to continue grinding until you feel the apples, or you don't feel any sizable apple chunks in the bucket itself. I'll take the lid off here so you can get a feel for what you're looking for. That is the consistency that you're looking for roughly with the apples. Now, because it's a paint stirrer, this took I think about 8 minutes to get to this point. Like I said, if you had a different method, you could probably do it much quicker. And then there's also some pretty big chunks of apple underneath that top part that would have given me more cider if I was more patient and grinded them down more. But once you have that pulp, you're going to set up your pressing apparatus like you have here. You have the frame on top of a chair, and inside that 2x4 frame, you want the bucket inserted on top of the painter's rolling tray with the holes that you drilled through the rolling tray over top of a bucket. The bucket in the frame itself is the one that you've drilled holes around the bottom to let the cider come out when you start pressing it. And then inside the bucket where I'm putting the pulp is the mesh laundry bag. There'll be a close-up of that here soon. At this point, the weight of the apples themselves are actually already pressing down and creating juice. You'll see that here soon. So you'll want to make sure that the holes of that painter's tray is already over top of the bucket at this point. There you can see the cider already spilling out. But to get the most juice out of this now, we're going to wrap up that laundry bag and we're going to put the scrap blocks over top of the bag once we pull the drawstring. And then we're going to insert the bottle jack onto those scrap blocks, and the top of the bottle jack will be pressing up against the frame above it. You'll see that here soon. Once you do that, you'll get the juice or the cider pouring out a lot more quickly. You see that here, it's kind of actually like pulsing out of the bottom there. You'll press down a number of times. You'll probably end up having to put more blocks underneath once you get to the max capacity of your bottle jack. And then I advise taking out the bag and shaking it up a little bit, putting it back in and repeating the process to maximize the amount of cider that you can get out of the apples that you have in there. The amount of apples that you saw pulped generated almost probably a half gallon of cider, and I probably could have gotten even more if I was more patient and if I ground up the apples even more. Here's what the end of the day looked like almost 2/3 of a 5-gallon bucket full of cider.